Hi, everyone. It's Kamara Toffolo. Thanks for joining me for office hours this Saturday, July 25th. So today, what I really wanted to go over with everyone is some resume formatting foundations. So a lot of the time I've noticed that the biggest challenges are caused by the smallest errors. So oftentimes I see various issues with formatting and they're really easy fixes. So I want to make sure that I've really addressed a lot of these formatting foundations with you. Hello, Michael. And so we can make sure that you're avoiding as many issues with your resume as possible. Yeah, before I dive in, please feel free to comment and enter in the chat any of your job searching questions. This is going to be a multi-part, multi-session type of workshop, because today what I want to really go over for resume formatting is like the scaffolding basically of building your resume. I don't want to get into too many details because it can get overwhelming very quickly. So this session, I'm going to, like I said, go over the scaffolding, the actual structure, the bones, if you will, of the resume. And then we will get into some more specific formatting down the road with our next office hours sessions. So like I mentioned in a few of my social media updates, my own resume used to be awful. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way myself. And so I want to make sure that, that you're able to avoid making the same mistakes as I am. Okay, so today we're using new tech, which is fun. This is StreamYard, not sponsored. And so hopefully we don't run into any tech difficulties. I can see your comments. I can see your chat. And I hope you can hear me, no problem. I know you'll let me know if you can't in the chat. So the great thing with StreamYard is this allows me to share my screen, which is something I couldn't do when I was broadcasting natively on YouTube. So yeah, I'm just going to dive in and I'm going to share Word with you. So this formatting is for Word. Some of it will translate across into other, like the Word version on Mac as well, but not every tool will translate. So let's get into it. All right, I'm going to share my screen, but I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me okay? And if someone could just pop a yes into the chat, that would be great. All right, so let me share my screen with you and we're going to go take a look at Word. For some reason, it's not showing up. Already having tech difficulties. Oh, great. Okay, give me a second, guys. There we go. Great, thank you, guys. Thank you, William. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Michael. Okay. I'm just going to, let's see here. Still learning this tech. I don't want to lose you guys, so I'm just going to leave the banner where it is now. I hope it doesn't get in the way of anyone's vision of what we're going over. So let me just pop down to Word. So basically what I like to recommend if you are either rebuilding your resume or writing a new one totally from scratch, maybe you've never had a resume before, that happens as well. I do encourage you to start with a blank page in Word, just like we have here. And we're going to build this for our friend, Michael Scott. So first, what I want to go over is adjusting the margins. So that's really the very first thing that I do when I build any resume is I start with a blank page and I set the margins first. So usually what I do is I just go to page layout and then margins. And then I do custom margins. And I like to do 1.5 centimeters all the way around. It might seem a bit skinny, but it's not overly skinny, and it's a good standard margin all the way around. So I'm going to do that. And I'm sorry, I am looking at my word screen, so I can't see your comments right now, but I will get back to them. Okay, so now that we've set our margins, what I like to get into next is including our contact information. So one of the things that came up is where the contact information goes and how this plays with applicant tracking systems. So I often say put your header in the body of your resume, but I realize that's kind of confusing. So this is exactly what I mean. If you go to the top of a Word document and you double click up here in this header, if you were to put any information in here, so let's put Michael Scott's name in here and his phone number. Okay, so let's say Michael built his resume header like that. So when his information is in the header section of a Word document, this is not readable by applicant tracking systems. So Michael's going to come up as basically a nameless, contactless person. So that's what I mean when I say don't put your contact information in the header. So we want to keep that area blank. And instead, we want to build it at the very top of the body of our resume. So what I like to do to keep this really simple is I like to just center it up. And we're just going to use Calibri for now because it's easy. So what I do is I just center it up. And I like to make the name a little larger. That's just kind of my design preference. So I might go up to a 16. And then I just type his name in. And the name is the first thing at the top of your resume. Then if I hit enter, what I want to put underneath the name is a title or his contact information. So the title doesn't have to go right under his name. The contact information can follow, but I do recommend that you do include a title. So before I add the title and tell you more about what the title is, do you notice how there's like quite a bit of white space in between his name and then the next line? What we want to do is make sure that we are going up here to our toolbar and removing space after paragraph. We actually need to do that on the Michael Scott line. So removing space after paragraph. And that's so we don't have any extra spaces. Oftentimes people run out of resume room because they're using the default Microsoft Word setting, which means they're doing kind of a 1.15 or 1.25 spacing, which is totally unnecessary. It does not need to be like that. So then we include a title. And in Michael's case, what he's probably applying to is a regional sales manager role, right? So I put basically in the title what you're applying for, so your target role. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to set the stage for the reader. It's going to prime them for reading your resume. For Michael, they're going to know that they should be reading his resume as a regional sales manager applicant. So that's what the title serves, and it also identifies what he's actually applying to. Okay, and then we're going to go on to our next line, and I'm going to make this smaller because we have a lot of information to fit here. And we want to include his contact information. So we've got Scranton, Pennsylvania as a city and state, and you only need city, state, or city, province. If you live in a more rural area or a town that's part of a larger metro, you can also say something like Toronto, Ontario area, or New York area, just to capture a wider geography. And then we'll put his phone number or his email. The order does not matter. And his email. And his LinkedIn, whatever his LinkedIn is. Okay, and that is that. Okay, and that's his contact information header. Again, technically in the body of the resume at the very top of the resume. So some things that people like to include in their resume is shading or lines, and I want to show you how to do that. So what I might include, just to kind of give the resume a bit of structure, is a line. Maybe I'll put it after his title here. And instead, what a lot of people do, which causes issues on the other end when a resume does go through the applicant tracking system, is they often will include a separate line and then they'll hold the shift down and do an underscore, let's say. Or they'll just hold down the dash and just do a bunch of dashes. Or they'll do something like underlining and then putting a bunch of spaces so that there's more underlining. And then it results in like a line across the page. You don't have to do any of that. In fact, I recommend that you don't, because like I said, it's going to come up really funny looking on the other side. So the easiest way to add a line is to use the borders feature up here. And you can click on the arrow to bring up more of an option for borders and just open up borders and shading. So you could do a line, you could do a dotted line, totally your call. So I'm just going to do a line for now. And we don't want them all the way around. We just want one here, and then click OK. And then that adds a really nice border or line across the page to just kind of separate some information for Michael here and just kind of break up the amount of text that we have. Some people might want to use shading instead. So let's take a look at that. It's in the same section, borders and shading. Instead of the line, which I'm going to unclick, let's go over to the shading section. And let's say Michael wants to have a really nice light blue shading. My mouse is not behaving today. All right, so maybe a very nice, very light blue shading. And then we have some light blue shading along that line. Really, you can play with this a little bit. I don't recommend using more than 1 or 2 types of colors on your resume. I think you should also only include pops of color. So some shading is fine with your subheaders or your headers. Or you could change the text color to blue. You don't need to do shading. That's totally your call. But I would use color sparingly because color can become overwhelming to the readers very quickly. So that's an example of what you can do. So let me just undo that shading and let's carry on. And I just want to show you how I might approach some of the subheaders. So at the top, we know that we're going to have our professional profile paragraph. So I'm going to leave some space for that. And then I'm going to center it up again, and let's add a subheader for our signature skills section or our areas of expertise, whatever you want to call it. And we can put a line under that as well, or we could do the shading in the blue like I showed you. And I'm not going to get into how the skills section can be formatted. I want to save that for another video, the next video that we do, the next Office Hours Live, because this is kind of a confusing section in and of itself in terms of formatting. So I'm going to leave that there for now, but I'm going to show you how the next subheader might look. And I think I had it at 14, and let's call it professional experience. And then we're going to include a line again. Okay. And then you would build your professional experience section under that. And we'll get into formatting around that in another session as well. And then if you were carrying on to a second page, or maybe you can fit your whole resume on one page, but again, don't try and squish everything. You might have your education section. And again, it's the exact same approach with the subheaders. Super easy, super clean, and really, really easy on the reader's eyes, as well as something that is very ATS friendly. Okay, so this is kind of like the bones of a resume. We want to keep it very simple, very straightforward, clean lines, pops of color if you want to zhuzh it up a little, but we really want to avoid using underline or underscore for creating those lines. Again, to recap, we can use this borders and shading feature to our advantage. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to go over today, just as a starter, just to get your feet wet in the formatting of resumes, and we'll get into some more details in future sessions. So I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to go back to my screen. All right. So what questions can I answer for you about what we went over today? Just see something on my glasses. Was that pretty straightforward? Did you have any questions about how it works in terms of kind of adding that scaffolding or structure or foundation for your resume? Thanks for your question, William. So this is a cool feature with StreamYard. I can actually show your questions. So do you like education combined with certifications, or do you prefer separate sections? It doesn't matter. You can go with separate sections or you can combine them. It's totally your call. Usually I'll combine if I have a space issue. So if I'm really getting close to the bottom of my second page, or first page, if I am aiming for a one-page resume, which is rare, I will combine them because a subheader can take up some room. So I will combine them, but you don't have to. You can separate them out. If you have more room to play with, absolutely feel free to separate them into their different sections. What I would recommend with a certifications section is that you definitely include dates for your certifications and say certified since, and then put the year. You can also put certified since and put the month and year. I lost what I was going to say further about certifications, but yeah, so I would make sure you definitely include the year. I got it back. If your certification is expired, you can still put it, but you need to make it clear that it's no longer active. So in doing so, what I've said for no longer active certifications is eligible for renewal or something like that. Or you can give a certification range, like certified from 2012 to 2015 or 2012 to 2017, let's say. Only if it's an applicable certification as well. Don't include certifications or education that doesn't apply aside from degrees. Always include your degrees. What about organizations? Can you tell me what specifically you're wondering about organizations, William? And I'll get to Dean's question. In a sales resume, how would you format what you sold? Okay, that's a good question. Sorry, just one moment. Okay, so for what you sold, I would provide that in the actual contextual paragraph that you put under each role. Sorry. So under each role, what I recommend is a structure of a small paragraph to give context to your role. And talk about responsibilities and your overall mandate. And then I follow it up with 3 to 5 bullets highlighting quantifiable accomplishments. As a salesperson, quantifiable accomplishments are very important. In the contextual paragraph, that's where I would include information around what you sold. So, or if you have a good quantifiable accomplishment, you could say something in an accomplishment bullet where you mentioned that you grew, let's say, grew revenue 25% year over year. Grew widget revenue 20% year over year. And then give context to how you did it, the actions you took to make sure that happened. So you could, again, in the contextual paragraph or in the bullet itself, it doesn't matter where, but don't necessarily get into a huge amount of detail about what you sold, and don't be overly technical about what you sold, because you'll easily lose any frontline resume reviewers who aren't very technical. So if you sold, let's say, a SaaS solution, I would call it a SaaS solution for whomever your client is, whomever your client's vertical is. Don't use too much jargon. Don't use too much technical language, because you want to make sure that your resume is easily read across audiences. Let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. Okay, William, is it good to list organizations such as PMI, SHRM, list as a separate section? You can. Again, it's a space thing. I've done a variety of things with memberships. So I have combined them in with an education section. I have combined them in with a community involvement section. I've given them their own section. So sorry, I'm having trouble. Sorry about that. So you could give it its own section, like I said, or combine it with other sections. And I would just name that it's a membership of whatever the organization name is, and then give a date range that you've been a member. So let's say 2015 to present. And I would just leave it at that. Wouldn't give it much space. I would say that memberships are among the first things that I will cut in a resume if I'm really, really short on space, because you can also account for them in your LinkedIn profile. There's a whole organization section where you can include your memberships. With PMI or any certifying body, if you have a certification, that's certainly more important than the membership itself. So make sure that you are noting your certifications and prioritizing your certifications ahead of memberships. Okay, let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. Dean, all right, justified before you start bullets. Do you mean left justified? Because a bullet would start on the left. A bullet should start on the left because the reader is reading. I'll switch. Should start on the left because the reader is reading from left to right. So let me know if I misunderstood your question. Nigel, hi Nigel. When you were adding contact details, you went down to 10-point text, I think. Is that the best in case the CV is printed out? Can 10-point be a little small sometimes? I wouldn't worry too much about it being printed out. You can put it up to an 11. 10 is the absolute minimum I will ever go on anything, on any font. But 10 is typically readable by the human eye on printed material. So, but your call. You can make it 11 if you want. You might just have to shorten your LinkedIn URL, what you type out, but don't shorten it too much because you want to make it obvious what the person needs to type into their browser if they decide to type your URL in. And so only chop off like the HTTPS and the www. So you'd start at linkedin.com/Nigel-Willis or whatever your URL is. Okay. Let me know if you have more questions on that. Dean, yes. Okay, great. Okay, I'm glad I understood that. Yes. So by default, Word is left justified. I will show you in a follow-up video how to right justified dates, because those are what you should definitely be right justifying, and I'll show you that later on. There's a trick that we can use in Word to make that work and work very easily and consistently formatted every single time. So yes, you'll want your bullets on the left side, left justified, please. Yes. Okay. All right. Any other questions that I can help you guys with? So next week, either I'm going to reschedule the Saturday 2 p.m. office hours, or I'm going to just postpone it until the following week because I have a 4-year-old socially distanced birthday party to go to. So I'll be celebrating with her instead of with you guys, unfortunately, but we will definitely make up the difference in future sessions. So, all right, guys. So any other questions that I can help you with before I let you go? What did you think of StreamYard? Did you, oh, good, Dean. Yes. Should I include a graduate school if I did not graduate? You can. So let's say it was an MBA that you didn't complete. So you can include it, but instead of claiming that you have the credential, which I'm sure you wouldn't do anyway, what I would say is coursework or Master of Business Administration, let's say, level coursework, and then put the school underneath it or beside it, whatever, and just leave it at that. So that way you're not claiming that you actually have the credential, but you're showing that you did complete some of the studies. Or you could highlight the particular courses that might be very relevant to where you're headed. So if you're in sales, you know, maybe you took something about, let's say, strategic planning, let's say. So you could highlight the courses that you took. So MBA level strategic planning courses, or MBA level business strategy courses, and just highlight those. That works too. Just the main thing there is just don't claim the credential. Like, don't claim that you graduated, or don't make it look like you graduated in any way, shape, or form, and then you're good. Okay, great. Yay, thank you, Nigel. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you, William. Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, I was meaning to get StreamYard. So this is StreamYard, not sponsored. But welcome. I welcome their sponsorship. So yeah, so with StreamYard, I've been thinking about getting them. Signing up for the service. I have used it when I was interviewed on Carrie Twig's live show, as well as when I was interviewed by Andrew Seaman on LinkedIn News. It's a super user-friendly platform, and I'm quite impressed with it. For me, I didn't even practice it. Well, I practiced going live just to make sure everything was connected properly, but I didn't even practice doing anything. It's that easy. It's really plug and play. So I'm quite happy with it. Thank you. Great, Michael. Thank you. Yeah, I like this. I just learned that this existed just about 30 seconds before we went live. So I'm really happy about it too. Thank you. Hi, Greedy. That's okay. Should you hyperlink the companies you work at? No, I don't think that you should. So the thing with resumes and LinkedIn, so actually we're treating them in two different ways. So resume and LinkedIn, they are meant to brand you. They are your marketing material. So you don't want to draw any attention away from you and the work that you've done and the value you've created. So on your resume, you don't want to link out to your companies. You could, let's say, if you had a portfolio item that's housed on your employer's website, like let's say you were in digital marketing and you overhauled the website. For sure, you can provide an example of that, but you need to make it clear, like overhauled company website to reflect refreshed brand, and then you can link to it. For sure, you can do that. Only if it's going to reinforce the great work that you've done would you want to link out to something. LinkedIn is a different story though. LinkedIn, you definitely want to make sure when you're adding each role that you properly link yourself to the LinkedIn company page for each of your employers. That improves your networking capabilities. So two different ways to treat it, I should say. Again, we're always trying to draw attention to your brand. I hope that makes sense. Nigel, sir. For font, is 10 point always your favorite font? Then how do you handle a shortfall in the amount of text? Okay, 10 point is not my, I should rephrase, is not my favorite font. It's the lowest size font I'll ever go. It is rare for me to use a 10 point font other than the contact information. For font, so let me answer the second part of your question. How do you handle a shortfall in the amount of text available? So when, in terms of handling a shortfall for the amount of text available, that's when I shorten the LinkedIn URL. But again, I'm only chopping off HTTPS and www. I want it to be obvious as linkedin.com. And also, if someone were to copy and paste that text directly into a browser, the browsers are now smart enough that they will automatically append an HTTPS and a www, or I don't even know, is www used in URLs anymore? I don't even know. But browsers are smart enough that they're going to know where to go. So yeah, you're only chopping off the non-essential parts of your LinkedIn URL. And also, I haven't looked at your LinkedIn profile. Make sure that your LinkedIn profile URL is customized so that you have removed any unnecessary numbers and letters that LinkedIn adds after your name in your LinkedIn URL, in your LinkedIn profile address, because those can really lengthen your URL unnecessarily. And also, when you clean that up, it helps you from a search engine optimization standpoint, and it looks good for your personal brand. And if you haven't done that already, I have a feeling you have though, but if you haven't done that already, I do have a video on that. So I'll link it in the description of this video afterwards. Okay, I hope that answered. My pleasure, Reedy, thank you. Great, good questions. Were there any final questions that I could address for you before I let you go? Yeah, I'm really liking StreamYard. I'm really pleased with it. So I'll keep using it. So I'm not just a floating talking head, because who really likes that, right? Thank you, Dean. Thanks for attending. Thank you, Nigel. Thanks everybody for attending. All right. All the best to you. Have a great Saturday, great weekend, and take care. See you next time. Bye, guys.